So, hi guys. This was really placed on my heart. I feel like God really put this on my heart to share this experience that I recently went through. So, I decided to make a video about it. So, I had my daughter November 20th, and I had a regular birth like everyone. I went into the hospital and I was induced. Everything went fine. I had her. She was healthy. I was healthy. 2 days later, we were discharged from the hospital and I went home. She was fine. I was fine. Other than the regular things that you go through after you give birth. 5 days later, I got a headache. At first it was a slight headache. I actually had started getting the headache a couple of days before, but I just figured it was because my husband and I were up with the baby. We weren't getting any sleep, so I just felt like I had a headache because of the lack of sleep. Well, on the 5th day, I was watching TV and the headache turned into a migraine. And I never experienced a migraine before, but light bothered me. I couldn't look at my phone, watch TV, anything like that. Everything bothered me. So I literally put my face in the couch because everything bothered me. And so my husband went and got me some headache medicine. I took ibuprofen and it didn't work. Later, I took a BC, and I took BC because I normally take BC when I have a headache and they work pretty fast. Well, that didn't work either. So I remember I couldn't go to sleep to save my life. My husband put on white noise. He put on like a vlog for me to watch, and nothing made me go to sleep. And so eventually, I don't remember, but I did fall asleep. And when I fell asleep, I remember waking up because I heard my daughter crying. And when I woke up, my husband was changing her. And so I picked her up and I was talking to her, and then I put her back down, and the next time I opened my eyes, I was in an ambulance. And I remember looking at the EMT and I said, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, we're just taking you to get checked out. We just want to make sure everything's okay. Now, at the time, it didn't connect to me that you're in the back of an ambulance. For me, it was just like, well, okay, like I'm in an ambulance. Like nothing really connected. And I remember turning around and I saw my husband in the front with the other paramedic who was driving. But it didn't register that, hey, you're really in the back of an ambulance. So what happened was that my husband said, he was feeding our daughter and he heard me gasping for air, and when he turned around, I was convulsing and I had a seizure. I was having a seizure. So my mom and my sister came, and my mom said that she was tapping me and I was unresponsive. But when she opened my eyelids, my eyes were still there, so they weren't rolling. So she was okay. She felt like I was okay enough, even though I was unresponsive. After that, they said I was foaming out of the mouth and everything like that. So they called 911. But apparently I came to, and I was like asking what was wrong because everybody was standing over me, looking like scared. And so it scared me. I don't remember that. The only thing I remember was coming to in the ambulance. So once we got to the emergency room. Oh, by the way, so after the EMT told me that they were taking me to get checked out, I closed my eyes again. I don't necessarily remember anything. And then when I opened my eyes again, we were in the hospital, and I guess they were waiting to put me in a room. And I remember looking at my mom. I looked over, my mom was standing next to me. She was rubbing my leg, and she had tears in her eyes. She was crying. But it didn't connect to me like, hey, you're on a stretcher, you're in the hospital, and your mom is standing next to you crying, like something is wrong. It didn't connect to me at all. So after that, I remember going into my second seizure. My body jerked, and then I felt myself convulsing, and then I went out again. But talking to some of my family members, my dad says that, you know, he was standing next to me. And he asked me, he put his hand on my face, and he asked me, was his hand cold? And I said no. So he turned his hand, like the back of his hand, and he went like this. And when he went like that, that's when my body went, I started having the second seizure. And I don't remember my dad talking to me or me saying any of that. A lot of my family members came and they were talking to me. I don't remember talking to anybody at all. I was having full-blown conversations with people, and I don't remember. I called my best friend, and I told her that I was in the hospital, and I told her what was going on, but I don't remember talking to her. Like a lot of it, I don't remember. And it wasn't just that I don't remember now. Even, you know, like after it happened, I still didn't remember. So I remember going into the second seizure, and I remember hearing my dad scream my mom's name, but I don't remember him talking to me. So I was out. The next time I woke up, I was in a machine, and they were like taking pictures of my brain, because pretty much they had to rule out that I wasn't epileptic. And so, because I never had a seizure before. I was diagnosed with preeclampsia, and I had experienced a seizure because of the preeclampsia. So pretty much preeclampsia is when your blood pressure shoots up. And when your blood pressure goes too high, either one or two things can happen. Either you can have a seizure or you can have a stroke. And so I experienced a seizure because my blood pressure was way too high. They don't know, the doctors don't know why preeclampsia happens. Normally, preeclampsia is caught at the second and third trimester of pregnancy. Not all women get it, but it is something that women experience, and a cure for it is to have the baby. Well, I never had any complications during my pregnancy, so I was just one of the ones who experienced it after I gave birth. So I was sent home on a blood pressure medication to take 3 times a day. Well, when I was discharged, the nurse told me to only take it if I was, in case of an emergency, because he told me that if I take it and my blood pressure is fine, then I could pass out. So I was scared, so I wouldn't take it. I would say like 2 days later, I started feeling weird. I just did not feel like myself. And I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the hospital. I called my cousin to take me to the hospital. So my cousin took me to the hospital, and they took my vitals. And the nurse, when she took my blood pressure, she looked at me strange, and she said, do you feel okay? And I was like, yeah, I feel fine. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. She said, I'm gonna call a code. It's gonna be a lot of doctors and nurses running, and I know it's gonna scare you, but I just want you to remain calm. I really want you to remain calm, because you, like me getting scared, it could have raised my blood pressure as well. So her telling me that scared me. Like, I was like, why do you have to call a code? Like, what's going on? Why are you looking scared? And then my aunt came around the corner and her eyes got so big and she looked scared. And I was like, what's going on? And when I turned around, my blood pressure was 189. I don't remember what it was over, but I do know that it was like 189. And so I was freaking out. And so they called the code. I don't remember exactly what it was, but pretty much it's a code they call when you are postpartum and your blood pressure is high, because at that point they do know that it's preeclampsia. So they, like, there was a wheelchair like two feet away from me, and they, like, everybody crowded around me and they helped me in the wheelchair, and they like rushed me to this room, and like all of these doctors and nurses were like in the room, in and out of the room, and they were all asking me so many questions, like, when did you deliver, what was your blood pressure at home, like, have you taken any like, they were asking me so many questions, and it's like so many questions were being thrown at me. I was nervous. Like, I was nervous. My blood pressure was shooting up, like, further. The doctor was telling them to give me all of this different medicine, like, oh, give her this amount and this amount, and I'm just like, what's going on, what's going on? I'm like turning my head, looking at the monitor to see what my blood pressure was, and it just was going up, and I was trying to calm down, and it just, the experience was scary. It was really scary, because the only thing that was going through my head was that I'm gonna have another seizure. Like, that's all that was going through my head, because I knew if your blood pressure is too high, you can have a seizure. And so I was scared. Like, I was super scared. And the doctor, she reassured me that everything was okay. She was like, if anything happens, at least you're in the right place. So that didn't really make anything better, but it did. Like, I knew that I was in good hands, but I still didn't want to have the seizure or possibly a stroke. So they gave me medicine to force my body to relax so that my blood pressure can come down. And I wish I knew all of the medicine that they gave me, but I really don't know what they gave me. But I could feel myself like calming down, and I was talking to my aunt, and I was just trying to like talk to myself, like just you know, like say, you're okay, you're fine, you know, you're not gonna have another seizure, nothing's going, you're fine, you're okay, you're gonna get through this. And I just was like, I can't. Like, I was scared. I really was scared. And so my blood pressure came down. They got it stabilized. It was like 140. That's still high for a person who does not have high blood pressure. That was still high, but it was lower than 180. So, you know, they felt okay. When you come into the hospital and you're postpartum and your blood pressure is high, what they do, they put you on a medicine called magnesium sulfate. And what magnesium sulfate does, it's to prevent you from seizing. And you're on magnesium for 24 hours. Like, you have to be on magnesium for 24 hours. And so I knew that I was going to be admitted and staying overnight. So I was admitted and I stayed, and little by little my blood pressure started coming down, and I stayed in the hospital for about 5 days, and I was discharged on a medicine called labetalol, and I had to take a really high dosage 3 times a day. And I was not missing a dose, because I knew that, you know, I need to keep my blood pressure down so that I don't have a seizure. Like, that was the only thing that was in my head. So I set an alarm, took my medicine 3 times a day faithfully. 2 days later, I was feeling weird again. And I was holding my daughter, and I was like, no. No. I had to give her to my mom, and I took my blood pressure. My blood pressure was 160. So at that point, I knew that I was gonna have to go into the hospital. So my aunt took me to CVS, and because I have a blood pressure monitor at home, and my aunt just did not believe that it was right but I knew that it was right because I didn't feel right. So we went to CVS. I took my blood pressure. It was in the 160s. I called the doctor. She told me to come in, especially if I started getting a headache. So my aunt, well, she told me that I could take my blood pressure medicine an hour. It was an hour before I was supposed to take it. And so she said, no, it's okay. You can take it. I took it. My aunt made me walk around like laps around CVS. And my blood pressure did started dropping. When I got home, my mom made me get on like a exercising bike that she has. And so I did that. And that started dropping my blood pressure as well. That's a way that if you have high blood pressure, exercise is good. Walking, anything like that will help drop it. And so I got off the bike, I laid down, it went back up again. And so at that, went to the hospital and my blood pressure was 180 something. So at that point, I already knew the routine. I was going to be on the magnesium for 24 hours. I was going to be admitted. I was like, you know, and so, but at that point, I was tired. Like, I was like, something has to give. So my OB called an internist, and the internist came in and pretty much asked me to walk her through the events, what happened the night that I had the seizure. And I did. I walked her through the events, and my blood pressure shot up. Now, the whole time that I was in the hospital, that time, my blood pressure was low. It was really good. I was happy because I knew that I was going to be going home soon, and I started talking about the events that happened, and my blood pressure shot up. At that point, the doctor said that me talking about the events was triggering for me, and they felt like it was best for me to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, because I needed to learn how to cope with the events that had taken place that night. I didn't realize how much talking about it bothered me, but it does. And they also felt like that was contributing to my blood pressure going up, because all of the events taking place were very traumatic for me, and I have anxiety because of it. And I was given medicine that night. The doctor gave me Xanax to calm me down, and it did. I went to sleep. I was discharged the next day, and the medicine that they gave me for my blood pressure helps tremendously now. I'm on 2 different medications. So pretty much I'm waiting for my hormones to stabilize, and then I can slowly be weaned off of the high blood pressure medicine. Well, God really placed it on my heart to share my experience, because I know when I first learned about preeclampsia, I instantly went to like YouTube to look for other women who experienced it, and I probably found like a couple of videos, and none of them were anything like what I experienced. It's very traumatic, what I've been through and what I'm currently struggling with thoughts about you know, everything that happened. A lot of times I don't talk about it, but you know, after I got out of the hospital, I wouldn't sleep because I just felt like I was gonna have a seizure in my sleep. I felt like I was going to die in my sleep. I would look at my daughter all the time and just get so nervous, because I'm like, I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to be here for her, because my health just was not getting better. It was scary for me. Like, I was very traumatized. I am traumatized. Even talking about it right now has me like a little jittery. But I felt like God really placed it on my heart to share it, because, you know, there may be someone who also is dealing with preeclampsia, and you know, I hope this video helps somebody. going through that experience, and now that I'm better, I know that God is real, because I experienced, and that was a near-death experience. And the fact that I'm even, still here to see my daughter hit a month, to see me hit 26, it's a blessing. And I know God isn't finished with me yet, because I could have died that night, but I didn't. Yeah, I just thank God so much for life. When you go through something like that, you see other people, and it's crazy because I worked with epileptic patients, and never could I imagine that it would be me having a seizure. When you go through an experience like that, you look at life a lot differently, like a lot different. I cherish my daughter so much, my husband, my friends, my family. Like, you look at life a lot different, and you really appreciate life. And I feel like, I don't know why God put me through that, but yeah, I don't know why God put me through it, but it's made me a lot stronger. It's definitely made me a lot stronger. And yeah, so I hope this video touched and helped somebody. That's all I really wanted to do, just to help someone. That's why I decided to make the video. So yeah.